So we talk about praying in Jesus' name, calling on the name of the Lord, but we know that leads to a lot of people into the sacred name movement. Your guys' assessment on it, which I believe is the correct assessment, is that it's the name is deeper than the actual name and wording. It's the actual depth and breadth of a individual. It's who they are. It's their glory, in a sense. So people use the word Jesus, Yeshua. Do they actually know that what he really is the Torah? And I know you talked about theonomy last week as well, and I think the week prior a little bit too, and how MacArthur would have a different than we would hold to. But is that then not knowing the gravity or the depth of who Yeshua actually is?
Okay, and so I'm going to try to wrap up the comment because I edited, and I don't want Matt's comment to be lost at all. Basically, I think what Matt is trying to say is, if knowing God means, like, if being in his name means representation of all God, of all who God is, and Yeshua is the living word, and that incorporates all of the law. In other words, the first use of the law is that it reflects and shines forth who God is. We see God's holiness through the law, okay? So if that's the case, and you have brothers in the Lord like MacArthur and Piper and these guys who reject things in the Torah, like the Sabbath, the food laws, and whatnot, then are they really understanding his name, in other words, who he is in total? And can we say that they are actually in his name? I think that's what he's getting at in this comment. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get clarity on what the point is. So go ahead, you talk about it.
Okay.
What your thoughts are, and I'll keep listening.
Here's the thing, is that I think that we all have misunderstood. We're not, as humans, what is it? Was it Luther? I know N.T. Wright always said at the beginning of his class, 30% of what I'm going to say is wrong. I just don't know what 30% it is. I think that that's true for basically every believer. In other words, there are things that you, me, Matt from Michigan, people in the chat room, we all have things that are theologically incorrect. We don't know what they are. We have
blind spots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't know what they are, but we are incorrect in different things. And we're probably fighting very hard for certain things that might be incorrect. And yet we still are in covenant relationship with God through Christ. And the point is that to know God does not mean to have knowledge about God. In other words, MacArthur knowing God, even though he rejects the Sabbath, has nothing to do with his knowledge of whether or not God's law is in total still applicable for Christians today or not. What knowing God means in the Semitic sense is that we are in covenant relationship. Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to a child. And so, what does it mean to know? It doesn't mean that he knew something about her. It means that he was in covenant relationship and enjoyed the covenant relationship add-ons that go with that covenant, and so they had a child. And this is ultimately, a husband and a wife are a perfect example of God and the ecclesia, in that we have a very intimate relationship with God. This point right here goes into all aspects of theology. What I mean by that is that this describes the fall of man, why God was separated from man, or separated man from God. Bringing man back into covenant relationship with him is only available through Christ. All these kind of things come from the idea of covenant relationship and being in covenant relationship with God. So to know God does not mean to know something about God. It's not to know that the Sabbath is still in act today. It's not to know that we are supposed to keep a kosher diet. In fact, Yeshua talks about children, and that we are to have faith like a child. Well, a child, certainly, I mean, my child is a perfect example of this. Ben is 8 years old now. He is I've described him as a theological savant. He is asking questions that I didn't ask until I was in my 30s. And so he's already asking these questions. However, his knowledge of the Bible, his knowledge of God is still very much on an 8-year-old level. Does that mean that he is not in covenant relationship with God because he doesn't know all of the theological aspects of the Bible? The answer is no. It's not about knowledge of God. It's about knowing God in a covenant sense. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and check out more videos from Messiah Matters.